This is the 3 Arts Workshop, Week 6, and this week in Dialectic, we're continuing our lessons on argument mapping. This week, we're mapping complex arguments. What is a complex argument? It's an argument with more than one layer or level of premises. Here's an example. Virtue is teachable because habits are teachable, and virtue is a habit. Virtue is a rational disposition. Great. What we want to do first is underline each of the propositions in this short passage. Here's the first, virtue is teachable. Here's the second, habits are teachable. Here's the third, virtue is a habit. And then fourth, virtue is a rational disposition. The next question is, which of these propositions is the conclusion? Which one is that idea the whole passage is driving at? 1, virtue is teachable. That's what this passage is all about. The next question is, what do I do with the remaining propositions? Look at proposition 2, habits are teachable. I know that that's supporting the conclusion because it follows a because. And if I look at that because structure, I see that it's compound. Proposition 2 follows the because, so does proposition 3. Even more, those two propositions overlap. Habits are teachable, and virtue is a habit. And so I can see that I have here one of these structures. 2 and 3 are working together to make 1. But there's one proposition remaining. Virtue is a rational disposition. This extra proposition is what makes the whole passage a complex argument. This last proposition is actually supporting 2 or 3. Now, which one is it? Virtue is a rational disposition. See the overlap of the terms here between 3 and 4? Proposition 3 is talking about virtue being a habit, and proposition 4 is talking about virtue being a rational disposition. The implication here is that virtue is a habit because it is a rational disposition. In other words, proposition 4 supports proposition 3. So we draw our final diagram like this. If you want to pause the video and study this passage to see all the connections for yourself, you can do so now. Here's another example of a complex argument to be mapped. Since life is brief, life is precious. Life is also a gift. It is a gift because it is full of gratuitous goodness. Great. Let's go through this and first complete the first stage by underlining all the propositions. Life is brief, proposition 1. Life is precious, proposition 2. Life is also a gift, proposition 3. Life is a gift because that's all old information, same thing as proposition 3. It is full of gratuitous goodness. That's actually proposition 4. See, the first part of that material that precedes the because is just a repetition of what's in 3. Great. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Which proposition is the conclusion? Is it life is brief? Is it life is precious? Is it life is also a gift? It is full of gratuitous goodness. The chief organizing idea here, the conclusion, must be proposition 2, life is precious. Everything else is here to demonstrate that life is precious. Okay, now let's look at the other propositions. 1, life is brief. That supports the idea that life is precious. So I know that that must be related this way. Now, I might have to redraw my diagram if I find that one of the other premises is working in conjunction, not as a separate line of reasoning, but as a complementary premise, a co-premise with proposition 1. Now look at proposition 3. Life is also a gift. Do I find that this is an overlap with proposition 1? Is there anything about brevity said here that would be the co-premise to proposition 1? No, this is in fact a separate line of reasoning. I'm saying life is precious because life is brief, and also, separate thought, life is a gift. It means that these two propositions are going to have two different lines converging upon proposition 2. Finally, we have this last thought, proposition 4. Life is full of gratuitous goodness. Now, which proposition 1 or 3 is proposition 4 supporting? It is full of gratuitous goodness. Well, that whole thought, you see, in the first part of the sentence, is linked to the idea that life is a gift. It is a gift, life is a gift, because it is full of gratuitous goodness. So that means that 4 supports 3, like this. This is how we diagram complex arguments. The question we are always asking is, which premises are supporting other premises? It's like, if you think about it this way, you have premises which support conclusions, but conclusions then become premises for further conclusions. So that's what we want to do. It's really the same method that we encountered last week. Now we're adding an extra layer. So ask that question when we come into our next quiz. Which premises are supporting other premises?